going to record. Okay, there we are. So moving down, I have devised, I have found, right? There up after the title, I have, let's say, inserted the link to the page that I visited in order to get these charts, right? I'm going to admit some people there. Okay, there we are. Hold on, perhaps you can see that. That's why I'm going to minimize it. Okay, active verbs developed based on Bloom's taxonomy. And you've got, here it says, right, knowledge, but knowledge has to do with remembering, all right? They are used by different authors. Some of them, let's say, think of knowledge as input. Some or others think of remembering, recalling facts, right? But it has to do with different authors revising, okay, because Bloom's taxonomy was revised, okay? So this is the newest version that was produced in 2000 and, if I'm not mistaken, 1, okay? Well, take a look. You should see that there are a lot of action verbs, right? Now, sometimes they may repeat, okay? They may be repeated, but what will be the difference? I guess that the difference has to do with lower and higher. That in lower, you are more receptive, right? And you are manipulating, let's say, knowledge or elements or language that you are working with the teacher. And in higher, right, in the higher thinking level, then you analyze, evaluate, and create, and you are just guided, and the language that comes to play is, let's say, in a way, decided and created and framed by the students. So the students will be given a certain task, but they will have to make decisions and choices, and they will have to start using the language more actively, right? On their own. They are more autonomous in the last 3 phases. And there you can see a lot. Now, what would be the difference between, let's say, deciding, let's say, or describing to remember new language, to remember language you already know, than analyzing or evaluating? Well, when you have to make a decision in terms of what is true or false in analyzing, when you are analyzing choices, you are going to give reasons. You are ready to give, to back up your decision. Whereas in, let's say, the previous phases, you just do the action and you don't have to say why, right? You work more on let's say, on an intuitive basis, right? Why? Because in a way you are conditioned by what you know and what is new. So we should say that many of the actions change, and they change in terms of production level, right? In these different phases. So that's why we may see that we repeat words, right? Actions, but they should be on a different level of complexity. Any questions so far? No questions?
Nope.
No?
No, I don't have I have a question, but I guess it is easy to fall in those dichotomies. I mean, in terms of words and levels of Bloom's taxonomy.
If it is difficult to use a
No,
word?
I mean, it must be. I believe that it must be easy to fall into those mistakes as regards which words you choose and in which level you are. I mean,
yes, the thing is that my idea to include this information is to help you with, let's say, the design of the tasks. So what do? You're going to use this table in the best of hopes to check that you are progressing, right? That is to say that at task 1, it may be placed here, but task 2 will be here in the applying, right? So that when you have already planned a lesson, you can use this to make sure you are using a variety of actions in the classroom, right? And that you are following, let's say, a progression in terms of complexity. That is what we call grading. But it's not that you are, let's say, compelled to use to use only these verbs. There may be others, right? In fact, there are different lists, right? You can consult others. But the thing is that what matters is that you, in a way, use this as guidance, right? Or as, let's say, a tool that helps you, in a way, check that you are planning being challenging in the students, to the students, let's say, intelligence. Okay? Do you understand that?
Sandra,
Yes.
Amy Cáceres just asked a really interesting question, which was, let me check because I can't open it now, but it was something, how do you check the pace on an 80-minute lesson? What would be a reasonable pace of progression during an 80-minute lesson?
The thing is that it's difficult to answer. Why? Because it much depends on the students, let's say, the number of students in the class, right? How often you see them. But I guess if you have just presented new language, that is to say, generally you do not go further beyond the applying stage on lesson 1. Right? I mean, but that's just an estimation, right? Generally, in a consolidation lesson is where you move upwards, right? Where you jump from controlled practice, you start with controlled practice, but then you start including more meaningful and then communicative activities, right? I would say that much depends on that. And sometimes we may say, well, in fact, the students, have been highly receptive of this, and perhaps they knew more than I thought, and well, you go faster. And you may combine different actions in the same task. So don't think that whenever you have one, right, that for each task you are going to, let's say, ask or request the students to do only one action, right? That is to say, they may be doing different ones at the same time. Okay, like for example, think of something very, very, let's say, very basic, such as memorizing, right, and repeating. Generally, when you repeat, you memorize at the same time. Okay. Well, and here I included in this PDF some examples of activities for the different phases. Can you see? You've got,
yes.
Let's say, memorizing a poem, recalling state capitals, remember math formulas, right? Okay, so I mean, there you have a lot of, let's say, examples. Now, coming back to what we were talking about, that has to do with goals. Now, when we talk about goals, I should be in a way categorical in terms of what I don't want you to write about lesson goals. I mean, the lesson goals have to be what the students will be able to do, all right? Not what you will do in the lesson. So it has to do with the students, let's say, actions that will come to an end, let's say, a final goal at the end, the students' abilities. As to say, what will they be able to do by the end of this lesson? Why will they go over different activities? Because I want them to do this. Now, bear in mind that if you have only 80 minutes to give, let's say, to present a new task, a new point, language point, you won't be able to do many activities. You won't be able to, let's say, go over all the different phases in Bloom's taxonomy, right? Perhaps you're going to start, as we mentioned, remembering or trying to draw on the students' schemas, right, at the beginning to get them into, let's say, the mood of the lesson, then to elicit information from them, then present them with a text or a listening activity or a video or a song, work on that, check that they understand, then have the Blackboard synopsis if we are presenting something new, and then gradually trying to, let's say, why not show that the students will be showing that they understand by doing recognition activities, matching, etc. Then perhaps they are going to start making the first attempts at using the language or the target language. It may be, let's say, vocabulary, it may be grammar and vocabulary, or it may be a skill, right? Remember, we talked about that. Now, what are they going to do? Well, perhaps with your guidance, they will start let's say, manipulating the new language content so as to, let's say, in a way, start incorporating or assimilating its use. And then what will come next? Well, there will be less guidance from the teacher, and the students will start what? In a way, we can say applying, but let's say also analyzing what is the best to do, what is the best to say, what is the best to write, to include, to contrast, to compare, and so on. So this is what you have to do. When you think of the goal, right? You have to think of a goal as a limit, but not the limit of a student. It's the limit that your lesson has, all right? Of course, if you are going to give a lesson in which the students will only be able to show that they remember, right, information, that is a very, let's say, mean, right, objective for a lesson. It's better to move to higher phases, perhaps to reach applying, right, with guidance, why not? And then you resume the lesson again with a practice lesson, and you start from remembering again, but you go faster and jump faster onto applying. And let's say, perhaps there could be activities in which the students have to apply, but they are more demanding, right? And then you go on building what? Those cognitive skills that the students already have. The thing is that you are making the students use these cognitive skills, right, with a new language. So it has to do this. It has to do with this. I mean, you are not teaching the students the cognitive skills. No, the cognitive skills are there and they have been developed not only at school, in many places, including, let's say, their homes, right? Including everything they do in life. The school helps you to boost them, but they are there, right? I mean, even when they play games at home, they are, when they draw things, when they sing, when they dance and all that, they are working on cognitive skills that have to do with other areas, right? But what you do is to address them. And if we think of analyzing, right, and evaluating, it has to do with becoming conscious, aware of our own learning, right? And that is something that is necessary, right? That we are fully acquainted with what we are doing and why we are doing it, right? Well, so far, what do you think about this? I mean, how do you feel about goals, devising goals in terms of what you are teaching?
I feel like I am going to struggle with that again.
Okay. Now, the problem is that sometimes the problem is not the goal, but the lesson in itself. If you focus on a lesson that will only deal with the simple present, Franco, for example, there is no way out for you to find the communicative goal if the tasks are not communicative. I'm just giving you an example, right? So we have to try to set our minds onto, let's say, lessons that aim at somehow resembling language in use, real language. Okay? So what do you really want the students to learn? To learn the simple present and know the grammar patterns? Or do you want them to know how to talk about their routines? Okay? So that's why I would say my advice when you have to, let's say, design the goals, right, is to think about the function of the grammar and vocabulary. So do not think just about grammar and vocabulary, but think about the function within it. And of course, it's easier when we are dealing with skills, right? But anyway, I don't think that in Argentina we much focused on skill lessons, right? We sort of collate skills, practice and development within lessons, but we don't have skill-based lessons and grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation type of lessons. We do not separate them that way. We tend to integrate them, and that's sound, okay? But the thing is that I think that what helps you with designing, let's say, the goals is thinking about functions, right? So what do you think? What I want you to do now, and to do it, let's say, for next, I was thinking about meeting you on Monday. I don't know if you will be able to work a little bit on this. I mean, what about the aims for this lesson bite? And what about the aims for the lesson that you are designing? Okay, sharing aims and trying to define them together. My idea would be like this, that you present your lesson plan or your lesson bite plan, and the space for the, let's say, aim is blank, you have one in mind, but with another, let's say, team, you discuss what they can see and what they would define as an aim, to see if it coincides or it's more or less what you have thought of. Do you understand what I mean? What I would like to do?
Yes.
Yes.
I think it will help you a lot. But perhaps what we can do, if we cannot meet on Monday, maybe we meet in these sessions that we have been doing, and we do it that way.
What time on Monday are you planning to?
Well,
have this
we'll start the thinking about the schedules tomorrow. Okay, right? We'll start organizing as we have been always doing it. Or do you want me to give you a lesson on Monday for all of you? The thing is that I'm not sure if everybody can join.
I can, depending on the time.
Okay, so let's do this. Next class, tomorrow we start on the WhatsApp group, we vote, okay? What you want. If you prefer to have, let's say, like a plenary, right, on Monday, everybody together, or if you decide to have it in sessions with 3 or 4 groups. All right?
Okay.
We decide which way we're going to do it, and then we schedule it. All right? Yes, you know what? Because next week we have boards, and the problem is I really don't know if some of you are sitting for any test, any final test and all that. And I don't want to intrude with that. Okay? But we know that we still have this, let's say, we have lessons. We do not, let's say, call them off, right? As it was when we were attending lessons at, as we used to do it, right? Remember that we were not supposed to give lessons on the week of exams. Now we can, right? So maybe we can do it that way, but we decide on that. Well, who has prepared something to share about their schemes?
Sandra, by scheme you mean this our own stages? I mean,
Yes, remember?
ideal. Okay. I can share mine.
This would be the highest level of in Bloom's taxonomy.
I can share mine. I mean, our.
Yes, we are very high, right? We have to be careful not to fall, right?
Okay.
Okay, well, let's see. Franco, have you prepared this with Desiree?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, I will share my screen now.
Right.
Oh, it's disabled. I cannot share my screen.
Oh, it's disabled? Sorry. The other day it was allowed. Okay. Let's see now, try.
Oh, it's working. There.
Yes.
Can you see it?
Yes, I can.
So what we did was basically extract from all these models which stage we seemed as ideal. I mean, regarding the order. Well, first we chose to place learning objectives as the first step, provided the language point, right?
And
So
you
we
take
included,
it, you consider that you already know what the language point will be and the type of lesson.
yes. Yes. Well, we wanted to take into consideration the learner's potential, abilities, language level, and needs. Also curriculum and the time allotted. We included this evidence, and we wrote something about our previous activity. You know, that one with cards that we had presented.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went for the selection of the content to achieve those objectives.
What do you mean? The context?
Content, the content.
And what do you understand by content?
The materials that we are going to use so that a student can, let's say, take in the input, and also the kind of activities that we are going to choose for the students to achieve the objective. That is, the general objective of the lesson is that students can give advice, yes, and particularly using the content of the vocabulary of health conditions.
Yes, but you know what? I wanted you to be more general in terms of thinking about steps you will go through, right, in order to plan a lesson, but this scheme should be useful for all types of lessons, not just to, in a way, describe the one that you have already presented. It should be like more hybrid in a way.
We just wrote some things about the activity because we felt that it might help us to guide ourselves through these stages. But we wanted to do it I mean, as a generalization of the stages. And well, then
but
we.
the word content is not very clear to me, because it seems that, what do you mean by, I think that what you have to select is a contextualization you're going to give to the lesson, because you already know what language you're going to teach, or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we have to.
No, I mean, think
choose
about
the
that, because the
context.
context is like the thread, is the theme of your lesson.
Yeah.
If it is not what you meant, then when are you going to decide it? Because if you do not decide on the context now, you may start planning activities that have nothing to do one with the other. And then how can you invent a context to embrace them all? Okay, think about that.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Oh, in this step, I wrote that not sure about the order because I wanted to like put them all together, right? Present stimulus, gain students' attention, because you present stimulus to gain students' attention, and then stimulate recall prior knowledge. I mean the review. In that case, I believe that it should be first, or the three combined. I'm not sure about that. Well, then the learning experiences. I mean that the input in order to achieve the objectives. And I wrote a scaffolding because I don't know, I sort of rang a bell, but I mean the learning guidance. I just wrote provide learning guidance because I didn't want to include it on guided practice, right? I'm not that I may have doubts regards to that.
Now, the thing is that some of them will happen many times during a lesson, or they will be repeated over a week or a unit, right? And think about this, not necessarily should they happen in this order, right?
Okay. Okay. I was
But
I
sorry, before I forget,
yes,
there is another concept that
yes,
I have to mention. The fact is that perhaps you have to divide this into sessions or places,
okay,
because I mean, there is one stage that has to do with your own planning that is at home. Then some of them have to do with what you do, let's say when you are in the classroom, and then what it might happen after you have finished the lesson, once the bell has rung.
okay, okay.
Thinking about assessing performance, for example.
Okay.
Mhm.
I was thinking about this checking understanding. I remember this video that you shared with us, in which we had many classrooms. And this teacher said that in order to check understanding, you just you have to see if everyone was doing the activity, were doing the activity. So everyone was there, started or not. So in that case, if they didn't start, you have to explain again. And if they did, you didn't have to explain again. Is that, I mean, is that
Yeah,
advisable,
but
or is that just
I think it may be, I mean, you have to be sure what you monitor their work, and you check if the students really understood what they were requested to do. I don't know if you are thinking about the new language, or if you are thinking about the task they have to do, because I mean, those would be different understandings in a way. So if the students didn't understand what they were supposed to do, you will see them doing something that does not, let's say, correlate to what you expect them to do. And if you see that the students have made a lot of mistakes, it has to do with not understanding the language that you intended them to use. These are different, let's say, aspects. Okay?
uh,
For example, if I give the students a task and I ask them to do the first one together with me, what am I doing? You give them a task and you say, okay, let's do the first together. And you, in a way, work together with the students and write an example on the board. What is that? Is that checking understanding?
Yes.
Checking
It's
understanding of what?
demonstration. I mean, you
or
try
the
to
task?
what
The task. Fine. If you have presented them with, let's say, new language in a text, and you start asking questions that revolve the new language there, that is not checking understanding of the task, but checking understanding of the input. All right?
Okay.
Okay, so that's why, I mean, checking understanding happens many times during the class, or the lesson in itself, right? Okay, and what is assessing performance for you?
Evaluate the students' output, what the students produce, and so you try to check how students could do the task.
Okay, but will that happen every lesson or after every activity? I guess that it goes
Okay.
on to a higher scale.
I was thinking about exams or tests
Mm-hmm.
that in when you have to assess performance, but I guess that's quite maybe, I don't know.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It has to do with that, right? But also assessing or thinking about the performance of the students during the lesson, and you trying to plan what will come ahead.
Okay.
And it depends also on, I mean, the way they are going to work, because if it is a whole group activity, you cannot assess each student. So
Mm-hmm.
it depends on the interaction also that you are going to have.
Okay, so what I need you is to go over this and be more precise in some aspects, right?
Okay.
Has anybody, because I have already given you feedback to some of you on what you have produced. Have you been working on this? Because then, I mean, you need it, or at least you need it for the next task, the lesson design that you have to do. Hello, students. Perhaps, Franco, if you stop sharing.
Yes, yes, sorry. I will stop this. No, there.
Okay.
There you go.
Yes, what about the others? Well, we are running out of time, okay? I think that we have only 1 minute and something, right? When the lesson is over, we resume, and I would like to see, or at least you tell me a little bit about what you have done, the other students. We are finishing at 4, so we still have 10 minutes more, okay? So if this happens to finish, right, we resume again at least for a couple of minutes, right? Okay. Any other group?
Sandra.
Yes.
Belen and I would like to present our scheme.
But have you already done it before? Did I give you
No.
feedback?
No, I don't know if you remember that we have misunderstood the task.
Right. Okay. So
Okay.
we have less than a minute. Let's finish this and resume it. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay.
because if not, if you start, you will be presenting for 30 seconds and then this will be over. Okay. Well, let's
Okay.
start again.
Okay.